Percival Wulfric Brown. Dumbledore's got style.
You're just as sane as I am.
I was not tell lies.
Get away from my plot, sir.
I've always felt our futures lay outside the world of academic achievement.
Just because you've got the emotional range of a teaspoon.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to Retold, the podcast where I retell you my favorite story of all time, Harry Potter. Every single week, I go through the Harry Potter books 2 chapters at a time, talking about what happens, covering my favorite lines, lore, behind-the-scenes things. We do trivia. We talk about movie changes. And this week, we are covering chapters 7 and 8 of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. But I never take this journey alone. I always have with me some very special guests. And with me this week, I am joined by the one, the only, Chase Keller.
What's
Hi,
going on,
Chase.
guys? Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Of course, we're so honored to have you on. I don't think I've had somebody of your, let me just say, I guess, category on the podcast before. I could be wrong, but if I were to stereotype, I looked and said, he's a bookstagrammer. Is that a correct term for what you do?
I would take that. TikTok, or what is it? Book Talk, I think is where I started, and then I switched over to the Insta. I don't even know what the acronym is. Instabook or
who cares?
Instagrammer. Yeah. I post videos about my reactions to books. There we go.
Yeah. Well, before we hop into who you are, your socials, and all that, our fans are dying to know. The listeners, the viewers are dying to know your fandom ID. And that is this concept that I get from MuggleCast podcast. Viewers, check them out. Great podcast. But it's where you let us know what your Hogwarts house is, your favorite book and movie, and how did you get into Harry Potter? So take it away, Chase.
We'll start there. So believe it or not, I wanted to be a Gryffindor. I know cliche, very basic, but I got Ravenclaw, which I think checks out. I'm a big creator. I like designing things like games. I like to read, obviously, make videos and all that. So it checked out pretty well after I took it twice actually and got Ravenclaw 2 times. So
Tried to finagle it.
I tried to finesse the system and it did not work. As far as my favorite book, funny enough, is actually Order of the Phoenix. And I know that is probably a hot take. I personally love the politics of Order of the Phoenix, and that is like my bread and butter when it comes to books. I wouldn't say it's the most fun book, right? Like, or instant gratification book, but I like getting the deep dive and the lore behind, what's going on behind the scenes. And I feel like this is the first book that really opens that door.
Yeah, I really like, that I feel like that is a hot take. People don't often mention book 5 as one of their favorites. They always say Harry's the depressed, angry kid in this one.
Yeah.
Something we've talked about each episode is we still love Harry, and he's justified in his anger a lot in this book.
100%. He's a kid. I think people forget that he's a kid. Like,
and he just
is a child.
Went through very traumatic things.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I like about this book a lot is like how much more of Hogwarts we get that, also that won't kill you, like a certain
exactly.
that
yeah.
come up, and
the world building
also
is huge here. Right.
But keep it going.
Yeah. Moving on. I'm going to take a wild guess here. The only person on your podcast that has not seen the movies yet. I decided to wait. I read the books for the first time this year. So when I started, I was doing a movie in between each book, and then I immediately stopped because I was starting to not like the movies, and I want to like them as separate pieces of art. So I'm letting my brain kind of like forget all the super nitty, details and whatnot. And then this fall, I'm hoping to like dive into the movies. So I don't have a favorite movie. I guess the first one, because that's the only one that I've seen.
I appreciate really that pumped. Take. I do appreciate that because I am somebody, this is not a hate read or hate recap podcast. I don't enjoy like hating on things that it doesn't sound fun for me to listen to. It's not fun to talk about. I know some people that really don't like the movies, and you know what? That's okay. You like what you like, hate what you hate. But I've just come to view, I saw the movies first, most of them anyway, except for like the last 2. But the other thing is the movies to me now are just like enhancers. So it's
100%.
It's like
and that's what they usually should. That's what they should be.
Yeah,
exactly.
A visual element for some of the things that happen.
it's a different piece of art too. And I think that's something I had to like tell myself, because the whole time I was watching the first movie, all I could do was compare it to the book and the details that were missed, and I know there's a section on the podcast that goes into that, but I wanted to separate the two. I wanted to separate the books from the movies. And I think giving it a little bit of a break is probably the best way of doing that. Plus fall, I mean, that's the best time to, watch them.
Absolutely. And I know C.S. Lewis has this one quote where he says, it's at the beginning of the book version of Mere Christianity. That book came out originally as like a audio talks, like on the radio during World War II. But when he made the book version, he said like something along the lines of, whatever piece of art you create should be created for that specific medium, you know? And so given that these were made as books first, I think it's just it seems obvious to me that of course the books will be better than the movies. It wasn't made for a movie.
Exactly. Also, I mean, look how thick this thing is. You can't.
She's a big girl.
In 2 hours.
She's a big girl.
She's a big one. Yeah, it took me a hot minute to finish this.
You got drawings on the sides of your page?
I do. Yeah, I got like, I don't really know if that'll pop in or not.
Oh yeah.
I don't even know what these are, honestly. This might be a movie piece or something.
Yeah.
But
I don't know either, but it looks cool.
It looks good on the shelf.
Yeah.
So
okay, and I think that's all of it. A part of your Hogwarts side. Oh, how did you get into Harry Potter?
Oh yeah. Okay, so I have actually been to Universal Studios. Went prior to Harry Potter, and I played the video game. So I don't have a complete,
What do you mean video? Like which video game?
Is there more than one? The Hogwarts Legacy. I think
okay,
it's
cool.
The one
No,
it's
I
called.
didn't know if you were gonna say like if you played one of the book video games or the Hogwarts Legacy game.
Oh no. I played Hogwarts Legacy through. And I was a Gryffindor.
Incredible
there,
game.
but I got to choose. It's such a good game, and I loved it. I've always loved Harry Potter. It's nostalgic, as weird as that says, even though I have no, prior to reading it, I had no actual connection to the movies or the books. But like Harry Potter is ingrained in everybody. I feel like whether you want it to be or not.
It's in your blood.
It's in your blood. So I picked it up and I fell in love with it. I mean, it was such a good series. It's always been on my list of something to read, especially when I first got into my reading journey a few years ago. And finally, I was like, it's time. I just came off of Red Rising, which was a very graphic, sad, trilogy that I started. And I was like, I need something that's a little bit more fun, like almost like watching a cartoon after a scary movie. And Harry Potter was the pick.
I get that. I get that. Like a rule in my house is always go to bed laughing. Like find something that makes you laugh or makes you happy.
No, scary movies I have to put on a cartoon or something after just to like clear my mind. I think you're kind of crazy and go to bed after watching one of those.
I remember the first horror movie I ever watched was Insidious, and that was in high school. And when it was over, I turned to my brother and I was like, "Hey, Duke, can I go to sleep in your room?" And I slept in his room and I watched like How I Met Your Mother. And then after 2 episodes, I was like, you know what? I'm a man. I'll go to sleep in my own room. Went to my room, turned on the bathroom light, turned on the hallway light, put like the Christian music radio on and had audio Bible playing on one headphone and went to sleep that.
That's the only way to do it. That's awesome.
Well, thank you for sharing all that. Another thing I want to ask you before we hop into the bulk of our episode is I wanted you to tell me a little bit about your social and what you do and how you've come to be this amazing book talker.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 2 years ago, I'll start with the handles. If you guys want to follow after this, my TikTok is Chase_Keller. And then my Instagram is Chase Keller Books. So I post,
and those will be in the description of the episode.
Awesome. Yeah. Feel free to follow along. The crash out is what we kind of call it, because I give just raw reactions to what I'm reading at the time. I got into reading about 2 years ago. I'm in corporate America, so yay. And, my whole life was kind of just like revolving around screens and stuff like that. And I'd come home and I'd scroll or I'd watch TV, play video games. And honestly, it was just a New Year's resolution that happened in June, I think. So, late, but it was always kind of like on my docket. And I asked my friends, I was like, hey, they're readers. And I said, give me a book that you think I would like. Jumped into Fourth Wing, which is,
a huge series.
Yeah, massive series, big book, but it really just kind of kickstarted that. And I posted my reaction on TikTok, I believe, the first time. And the first video got like 2.5 million views. And I was like, well, this is cool. I know, it was completely random. And while I was truly enjoying the reading just the community around, Book Talk, Instagram, and all that was so fun. So that really also made it a lot more engaging for me because I don't have like guy friends that really read. And that became almost like my little book club. And I've been posting for about 2 years now. And I think we've done about 50 books, give or take.
Wow.
So not crazy. I'm not like a 200 book a year kind of guy, but I definitely get through 1 or 2 a month. So
The thing that I would be curious about and would want to ask you about is, so you're posting your live reaction to books, but you don't always post at the end of a book. Sometimes or at the end of a series.
no,
Sometimes
not at
it's
all.
middle of a chapter or middle of the book or middle of the series. Are you able to even look at the comments? I'd be so scared of, I don't care about spoilers, but I assume you do. And that would be like
100%.
heartbreaking.
Yeah. So I am posting like as I go. I'll say this. There's not been many spoilers. A lot of people are really good about being very vague in what they're saying. So like looking back at videos that are, early chapters, I see the spoilers in disguise, but I have gotten to a point now where I will record my videos as I'm going. So they are like my live reactions, but I finished the book before I post the first few chapters. So I am a little ahead, which is kind of like my little cheat to avoiding spoilers. But
do your viewers know that?
No, well, I guess they know now. If you're one of my people, surprise, I'm a little ahead of you. But that's more for me because I have been spoiled before, and it sucks because you're like, you're actively reading through it, and you don't want to. No one wants to be spoiled. It kind of ruins the fun. So yeah, that's been my little cheat sheet, is getting about a book ahead on my videos. But I do film as I go, so they are in those moments of the videos. That's where I'm at in the book. So
yeah, that's I'm. So that makes sense. I'm a little bit different in that, I would hate it if somebody spoiled me on it, and I didn't see that intentionally.
And it's happened to all of us. I mean,
yeah. But I often Google spoilers. I can't handle the stress. We were my wife and I went to go see the movie Dune Part 2. Yeah. And I remember I was in the middle of the big fight at the end, and I couldn't take it. Like halfway through the fight, I Googled who won.
Just had to see what
in the
happened.
Movie theater.
Oh, man.
I was like, I need the stress to go away so I can just properly enjoy.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I try not to. I'll actually, if this is funny, I mean, I blur my eyes when I read my comments. So I'll if you cross your eyes slightly, it blurs it out. And I'll read like one word at a time if it's a longer message and try to decipher whether or not it's a spoiler.
That's funny. And
I've gotten to the point now where I do block. There's been a few people that have blatantly just tried to come out and ruin the story. And I'm just like, I'm not even going to entertain it. So we just go straight for it.
Well, all that being said, it's time to hop into some Harry Potter. Chase, we're very glad to have you on. Something I do near the beginning of every single episode is I play what I call Quizzitch, which is this running competition in every single book where I pridefully claim that I know more about Harry Potter than anybody else in the world. And like any good theory, you have to put it to the test. And I put it to the test by challenging my guests who represent the world to a trivia competition. You represent the world. You have a big responsibility today. I represent myself. I won book 1, lost book 2, lost book 3, but I won book 4. So it's 2-2, all tied up as far as the whole series goes. Currently, in this season, I am ahead 7-6. It's only a 1-point difference. So I'll ask you 2 questions. You ask me 2 questions. And that's how it goes based on what happens in this.
Man, I should have went with harder questions. Chapters. I feel like I tried to
okay. Don't even worry about it. Ask me the easiest ones you got.
World, I feel like I might let you guys down. I'm so bad with the little details. How do you want to start? Do you want to go first or do I go first?
How about what I like to do? I write down a lot more than needed, especially with first-time guests, just to gauge where you're at. So you ask me your first question.
All right. I did read these chapters back today, so hopefully it's fresh on the mind. All right, we'll start. So this one I pulled, I thought it was pretty clever, but when Mr. Weasley and Harry Potter are in the phone booth before they go in, do you recall or know the password that is used?
Yes, okay. Oh my goodness. I even have it written down, so I know there's I know basically that it's the old phone texting lingo.
Yes.
So I could write it all down, but it wouldn't work. So I'm going to go with 42442. Is that it?
You were so close.
62442.
I think we give it to you. Yes, that's correct.
It's
So,
6,
do you know what it
2, 4, 4,
spells
2.
out?
Magic.
Okay, that's
Magic.
fair. That's
Yeah.
that's good. I'm
You know
gonna
what?
give you that one.
I got it wrong the first time though. I'll only take a half point. I'll only take a half point. There we go. We do half points
right.
on the pod. I get a
All
lot
right.
of half points. All right, your
I'm
question.
about to get 0 points. All right, here we go.
No. This is good. This is good. Okay, here's what I'm going to do for you. I have 2 questions for the first chapter. One is a lot easier than the other, but
All right.
I'm going to ask you the slightly harder one first because I found it so funny. And if you don't get it right, I'll ask you the other question. So you'll get 3 today if you get one wrong. So the one I found really funny, the Fountain of Magical Brethren, whenever they go in there into the Ministry of Magic, each of the beings on it has water shooting out of a certain part of it. You know, the wizards is coming out of their wands, the centaur is coming out of his arrow, the goblin is coming out of the tip of his hat. With the elf, with the house elf, where's the water coming out?
You're killing me. I was hoping it would be the wand. I know that one for sure. Like, that one is like a clear, oh man, the elf. Okay.
I'll give you a hint.
I'm going to go with,
part.
It's a what?
A body part.
It's a body part. Okay. Now, my head's going to foot for some reason, like his thing, but I feel like that's wrong. Let's go with his fingers.
It's coming out of the ears.
The ears.
Like I said, it was a stupid, funny thing. I really enjoyed it. Doesn't count. Here's your real question for this chapter.
All right.
What is Molly making for dinner that night? Arthur tells Kingsley, hey, if you got time, come over for this. Molly's making this tonight. I shouldn't have said this.
What's funny is, I remember when I just reread this, she made, I want to say it was breakfast with all of them when they were sitting at the house, and I thought it was just funny how she just like, it just pops up and it's there. But the actual food that she's making, oh man, I'm trying like my best not to look at the book. I don't even know. I'm gonna have to pass. Let me take a guess. Let me take a guess. I'm gonna say chicken, but that would be a Muggle food.
I can give you 3 options. I'll give you 3 options.
Okay.
How about this?
Okay, maybe that'll.
Off the cup. We got beans and toast, burgers, meatballs. Meatballs is correct. Ding, ding, ding.
Okay.
Good job.
We'll take 0.25 on that.
I was like, I just
once
thought
you said it, I remembered. I was just like, that's such a small detail.
That's why it stuck out in my head because I was like, meatballs. I love that. Okay, what's my next question
though? All right. See, now this one's too easy because
I love it.
You've got it down, and at first I was like trying to go harder, and I didn't. I went easy, but we'll just go ahead and give it to you. So, how much earlier did Dumbledore arrive to the hearing than what he was originally supposed to be there for?
Chase?
An hour. Yeah,
he arrived 3 hours early.
Yeah, you got it. All right.
Your question, what is Dumbledore's full name?
Oh, man. And he does give it. I know I know Albus Dumbledore for sure, but his middle name, I want it. Isn't it 4 names? It's like, isn't it 4 or 5
if you can
names?
give me just one of the middle names, because there's 3 middle names. If you can give me one of them.
This is the only time in the entire book that his full name is given, is it not?
I think it's the only time in the whole. The only other time is in book 7.
It is given in book 7? Okay. Yeah. Oh, man, I should have looked at that. Does one start with a D?
No.
No? Okay. I probably don't know. Albus. Yeah, I don't know.
This would, if you were a movie watcher, this probably would stand out even more because the delivery of this line is hilarious. But the full name is Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. And
so it is 5. Okay, I remember it being very long, and I was looking at it like, golly. Okay, Brian. How did I not remember that?
That's in the movie, the way Michael Gambon says it. He's like, walks right in, doors burst open. He's like, Albus, Percival, Wulfric, and he says those loud, and then he just drops it, Brian.
Brian. Man, I let down the world. I feel
That's
bad.
all right. Hey,
All right,
it's
it happens.
1 to 1.5 on that particular one. So the score after today's episode is 8.5 to 7. All right. It
All
only
right.
increased
All right.
by half a point.
There
You
we
held
go.
your ground. You did
held
pretty
it.
good.
We did what we could. We did what we could.
That's right. All right. In just a second, we'll be moving on to our chapter coverages, but Future Barry will hop in right here to let you guys, the audience, know what your question was from last week and give you your question for this week. Hello, Future Barry here, letting you know what the answer to your Quizzitch question was last week and giving you your question for this week. So last week, your question submitted by our wonderful patron, Zach, is: what was the name of the book that Molly consults to help them with the doxy infestation while they're cleaning out the drawing room in Grimmauld Place? And the answer to that question was Gilderoy Lockhart's Guide to Household Pests. Silly Molly still using Gilderoy Lockhart's books. Well, I guess they have elements of truth to them. He just didn't do the stuff. But anyway, that was your answer to last week's question. If you got that right, congratulations. If you got it wrong, better luck next time. Next time being right now. Your question for this week, dear listeners, also submitted by our patron Zach, is: where was Harry's hearing supposed to take place prior to the change, whenever they moved it to downstairs, in the whole, and he's tried by the whole Wizengamot? Where was it supposed to take place originally, and who was going to be the only judge? That is your question for this week, dear listeners. If you want to answer that, you can write into theretoldpodcast@gmail.com or message me on Instagram at theretoldpodcast. And if you want to submit Quizzitch questions, well, you can, listeners. By signing up to be a patron for the podcast at just $3 a month, you can submit a question for every single week's Quizzitch question, and you get access to bonus episodes every single month, as well as other exclusive content over at patreon.com/retoldpodcast. All right, back to the podcast. Thank you, Future Barry. I love the power of editing. But moving on now, what we do every single week, as I mentioned before, is we recap the chapters, have some bonus sections at the end of each one where we talk about our favorite lines. We talk about the movie changes in a section called the Transfiguration section. And then we have a Golden Snitch section where we talk about extra lore, deeper dive into things, do it all again for the next chapter. And then we have our restricted section at the very end where we talk about spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled on the books, don't worry. All right, you don't have to be Chase reading his comments with eyes crossed. All right, you'd be just fine to listen to this podcast, maybe. But let's get it going. And listeners, just so you know, I say this every time I have a first-time guest. My guests are free to interrupt me as they see fit. All right, because I'm just rambling, going through the recap of the chapter. So if you hear my guest cut across, they're not being rude. They're doing what I asked them to do. All right, so let's do it. Chapter 7, the Ministry of Magic. The morning of the hearing, Harry wakes up way too early. I thought you might have asked me what time he woke up. And Chase, the answer would have been 5:30. He can't go back to bed, so he just gets up and gets ready. I like that Ron can't be bothered. He's sleeping open mouth, just drooling on the pillow. He makes it to the kitchen, and he gets some. He makes it to the kitchen, and some of the adults are already in there waiting for him. Molly's not dressed, though. She's in her PJs, but she starts on his breakfast. What a sweet lady.
Yeah, I called that out at the beginning. I do remember that.
You did. That's right. You're like, I promise I read them.
I was like, I remember there was breakfast involved. I forgot about the dinner.
It's not the best toast, though, because Harry's like, this feels like I'm chewing carpet. And I'm going to blame that not on Molly, though, but on his nerves. Arthur says, how you feeling, Harry? Well, don't worry about it. It'll be over soon. Solid pep talk. They tell him that Amelia Bones will be presiding over his hearing, and she seems pretty chill. Molly, I wrote down Molly, his name is Harry Potter, because there's a moment where she's combing his hair and she's like, does it ever lie flat? All right. And he's like, no, it doesn't. He's so nervous. As they leave, I like Sirius trying to comfort Harry, where he just goes, Harry, don't worry. You'll be just fine. And if not, I'll take care of that Amelia Bones for you. All right, Sirius.
You got nothing to lose.
Yeah, the thing is, I believe you when you say that. It doesn't sound like a joke coming from you. I also like when Harry asks Arthur if he usually walks to work, and Arthur's like, LOL, no, this is all your fault. Usually I just apparate, but you can't do that. Except Arthur doesn't say it that mean. He's pretty nice about it. They head to the Muggle underground. Mr. Weasley loves the ticket machine. I like, he's like, wow, these are so amazing. And Harry goes, they're out of order. He says, yes, but even so, I just like them. They're nifty. Harry has a moment of panic when they get off the train and Arthur's looking around and he's like, and Arthur's like, I don't know where we are. And Harry thinks, oh no, did we actually get off at the right
Get
stop?
lost. Yeah.
Chase, I am from Atlanta. I'm wearing like my Harry Potter Atlanta Brave shirt.
Same.
Hey,
Look
so
at
you're
that.
familiar probably with the
Yeah.
Marta.
Oh yeah,
Probably with the
very.
This gave me vibes of whenever I was in high school and I was riding Marta alone for the first time. And I'd be like, which station do we got to get
Where
off
am I
at? Did I do
going?
the right one?
Yep.
You got to switch trains? You're telling me I got to switch? Little 5
Which
points every
way?
time.
Which way's which? You get so lost underground.
Yeah, but fortunately for Harry, Arthur knew where he was going. After some walking around, they go to the Ministry for Magic phone booth, the visitor's entrance, which is the famous telephone booth. You guys have all seen it. I'm assuming, Chase, that you saw this at Harry Potter World in Universal.
Yes.
Everybody does the photo op in there. Dial the number. I even had it right here and I still got it wrong. 62442. I told you I wrote it down. Why that number? See, Chase, sometimes I put these little jokes in, but it did get spoiled. I was like, why that number? Well, listeners, Barry will tell you about in the Golden Snitch section. No, he won't. We already told you. It spells magic. According to the old texting scheme where it's like every number has 3 letters
It's
assigned
like
to it.
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then, anyway, a pretty lady voice comes over the intercom. Welcome to the Ministry of Magic. At least, I don't know how it sounds, but that's how I picture it in my head. Are you listening to the audiobook, like the full cast audiobook version?
No, what's his name?
Jim Dale or Stephen Fry?
Jim Dale. I got Jim Dale, and he
Mhm.
was incredible through and through.
Yes, I love Jim Dale as well. He is my like normal audiobook version. I've probably listened to him do it, like go through the series at least 10 times. So
Wow. Yeah,
at this
he's
moment,
like the
though-
Mount Rushmore of audiobooks that I've listened to. He just
Yeah.
hits every character so perfectly.
So at this moment, I am trying to go through with the new full cast audio.
I saw that.
Freaking sick. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
But still, I think Jim Dale just the
Nostalgic.
the
He's got that
talent
spot.
that he
Yeah.
has. It's so sick. But anyway, they get some little badges because they state your name and purpose. And Harry Potter is there for his disciplinary hearing. The booth begins to descend. Ooh, down it goes until they reach their stop. The doors slide open, and bam, they are standing in line at Epic Universe. No, I'm just kidding. Have you been to Epic Universe?
I went this year. Yes.
Oh, and you got to see the Ministry of Magic there?
It was crazy. It was really cool. It's not
Yeah,
how
they-
I pictured it in the book, actually. And I don't know if that's how
Really?
it's portrayed in the movies. No, I don't know what I pictured, but it wasn't that. The color scheme was a little bit different than I was expecting, but it was so cool, like being in the in it. The Blue Flame Network looked exactly how I pictured it, but that main atrium, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, the thing that I like the most, one of my favorite details, was they put mirrors along the sides of the ceiling
Yeah.
in the big room. So like whenever you look up and you see like those windows going up, it looks like it continues to go up
Just
through
keeps
the smoke.
going like through the clouds.
is-
Yeah.
Such cool design. Yeah, that place, my wife and I went when she was pregnant. It's like one of the only rides we could kind of safely do.
Right.
It was sick. We had to wait 3 hours, and no ride is worth 3 hours.
Yeah, we
But-
got there with the rope drop and went straight to it and still waited in line for probably at least 2. I mean, there was
Daggone.
no, yeah, but what a cool place to wait in line. Like,
Mhm.
it was the quickest 2 hours we ever had. I just,
Yeah, I
every
had to
detail
pee,
you
so it
can't,
was not.
yeah.
We had it bad because the ride was down all day until the final like 4 hours the park was open. So then and that was when like the Stardust Racers thing was shut down after
Oh,
the
man.
accident. So it
Yeah.
was like all the other rides at the park that day were doubled in their normal wait times
Right.
because the 2
Yeah.
biggest ones were. Anyway, we're not talking about you Epic Universe people. We're here for Harry Potter. So they're standing in the Ministry of Magic entrance area, like Chase mentioned, with the Flu Network all there along the sides. It's a big old room. Y'all have seen it in the movies, unless you're Chase and you haven't. So yes, the statue is what I wanted. The statue is canonically racist, but I do like that the water comes out of the house elf's ears. I did find that very funny and enjoyed that aspect of it. they shuffle along with all of the ministry workers. Harry sees the charity sign on the fountain, and he's like, if this goes well, I'm going to donate a lot of money to this. It's like whenever you pray to God and you're like, dear God, if you let me pass this test, I promise I'll get my life together and start going to church.
He said he would give him like $10 or 10.
10 galleons.
See, you should ask me that. I do remember pieces.
You would have said $10 though, and you would have been.
I know. I would have been like $10.
Muggle money is crazy. So Harry goes through the wizard TSA, with a little gold. It's the first time we see a secrecy sensor used. And he's scanned over by Eric, which in a world full of funny magical names, it is funny that Eric is at
such
the
a
front.
Basic for a reception. I mean, it just works perfectly though. Honestly, the transition between Muggle and ministry, you have Eric working the front desk.
Not to say Eric's not a bad name. I love you, Eric. Thank you for listening to the podcast.
Love Eric.
But they meet a fire-breathing chicken. Don't tell Hagrid about that. I did like that. It was just something I noticed, and you'll see this in the movie too when you watch it. But in the book, they said a fire-breathing chicken is in a cardboard box, which I'm sure they buffed it with magical protection spells, but it didn't seem like a great idea to me. Anyway, they hop on the elevator, and we pass a lot of different floors. And if you were somebody I had on before, and I knew you to be a Potter genius, that would have been the questions of, what number floor is this? What number floor? Like, what's on this floor?
Asked that, but I assumed you probably knew. Yeah, there was.
I only knew two of them. The first one, because it's the floor 7 or level 7 is magical games and sports.
Yeah.
That floor. And then the second level because that's the one where Arthur
That's
works.
where they were. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the second one was almost a question for you, but I thought that was a little too hard. So anyway, because I might not even gotten it. So they meet the chicken, they go through the floors. Just some things to mention about the floors. Like I said, I like the sports floor. I love the paper airplanes that fly around, the interdepartmental memos. And then I wrote down, why do so many people get off on the worst floor? So let me go to this page in my book. Oh, I already have it open. Perfect.
Oh, so wasn't it like something with excuses or something like that? Or
Look at you.
I do remember that. The whole elevator got off, and I can't. You're gonna say it in a second, but I remember it being something about essentially people just doing stuff they're not supposed to do, and they're going for
the worst floors. Like, everybody works here. So level 3, Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes, including Accidental Magical Reversal Squad, Obliviator Headquarters, and Muggle Worthy Excuse Committee. I was like, why is this the floor that everybody gets off at?
It's popping.
Yeah. Anyway, they get off at level 2, Department of Magical Law Enforcement. The ministry, Chase, check this out. The ministry is so nice that they gave their employees windows, even though they're underground. That's a business that cares about its employees, except for Arthur, because he doesn't get a window in his office.
Mm-mm.
There is a cool looking aura. I just like, one of my favorite things is when we get to chapters like these. This is a very similar chapter to the World Cup chapter in book 4, where we just see all these random wizards and the world gets expanded. As you're walking through the magic, JK has a chance to just flex how awesome this world is and how creative and fun it is. But I feel like JK Rowling has a thing for dudes with ponytails, because she describes Bill Weasley as super cool because he has a ponytail and an earring.
I never picked up on that.
When they're walking through level 2, this particular level, they pass the Auror's office, and there's an Auror sitting with his feet kicked up on the desk. He's got scarlet robes on and a ponytail longer than Bill Weasley's, is what Harry notices. And he's like, wow, that guy's really cool. So we know JK's type. They talk to Kingsley. There's that moment. I love that so much, that they have this fake conversation where they're
I do
being
too.
super
They're
mean to each other.
Yeah. They're kind of putting under the rug their tight knit relationship.
Yes, being mean over top and then whispering underneath, I love you, buddy. You can come over for meatballs. I didn't mean it.
Meatballs. Here's a magazine.
Yeah, the magazine's funny. We'll hear about that later in the book too. Fire legs was another funny word that was used, which I don't think I caught on my first time, but Kingsley says, Arthur, you get back to me on that report about the Muggle fire legs. And he goes, if you had read my last report, you would know that it's firearms. And I was like, oh, that's funny. Anyway.
Just these little details. I mean, yeah.
the words that we use and the just playful twist of each one. But they make it to Mr. Weasley's office, not the coolest place. Harry says, if you could believe it, it's smaller than my cupboard. But one of the things I thought was sad is that there is the photograph of the Weasley family, and Percy's walked out of the frame.
I know. I did notice that, which is crazy.
The only other time
I didn't realize. Okay, this is never mind. I just answered my own question, but there was one chapter that, and it might have been earlier in the book, where it talked about how. Oh yeah. It was the candy on the train when they got, they get the wizard cards or whatever in the chocolates, and Dumbledore left frame, or one of the wizards left frame, and I think Ron had said, like, what do you expect him to stay there all day? And I always wondered in my head, like, are they consciously, like, they know what photos they're in and what photos they want to leave? Like, I've always wondered, like, how that worked in the wizard world. I don't think it's ever explained, but
yeah,
that part is such a little detail that's always stuck out to me.
Yeah, I think like the in canon, like in world excuse is something along the lines of certain types of pictures are given certain levels of sentience, with the portraits of the headmasters being given the highest level of sentience. But if it's typically, I think what we see is the smaller the picture, the less the awareness in the subject's frame.
Right.
Or the answer is, Chase, don't pull too hard on that thread. All right.
There was a lot of threads. I had a friend that watched it or read the books, and I'm asking these like super just in-depth questions, and he's like, dude, just read the book. Like, that would be one example of one of the ones where I'm like, how does this work?
It doesn't matter. It's magic. That's
magic.
all. I listen
magic.
to a podcast, and every time there was a weird question like that, one of the co-hosts would just say, guys, magic.
And
that'd be the answer.
There's your answer.
Every time.
Yep.
So, Percy walks out of the camera. They chat for a second. Mr. Weasley gets a memo, and Chase, it does not have great news in it. One regurgitating, I can't say that word, regurgitating toilet. That was almost a question. I was going to ask you what was in the interdepartmental minnows. What does he call them? Pumbles or
something. And then, he's corrected by Harry.
But one regurgitating toilet is bad enough. But you know what's worse than that? 2 regurgitating toilets, and worse still is 3. And that's what Arthur has to deal with from those anti-Muggle protesters in. Now, I was going to try to say the city that these Muggle protesters, anti-Muggle pranksters are from, but I think I'm going to get it wrong. So anyway, poor Pumbles, as we've said. There's also some place in England called Elephant and Castle. And I was like, that's a cool name for a place. Suddenly, Perkins comes in and says, y'all, you got to bounce. And Arthur's like, Perkins, I know. I didn't think the toilets were that big of a deal, though. And Perkins like, it's not the toilets, Arthur. It's Harry's hearing. They changed it. It's happening in the Supreme Court chamber. Arthur's like, wow, that's okay. That's a bit much. Okay, at least we got some time, time to prep before. He's like, no, Arthur, it's like in 2 minutes. You got to haul. So they haul out of there, and they take the lift to go back down. I wrote down, Mr. Weasley waiting on the lift is me when I get stopped by stoplights. After much ado, they finally get there. And I like the moment when Harry realizes Arthur isn't going with him, because he's like, hey, we going on in? And Arthur's like out of breath. He goes, no, kid, you.
It's all you.
He's like, what? Poor kid. But anyway, that's the end of the chapter. Yay! So moving on now to our favorite lines. In the previous episode, Chase, the whole time I've done this podcast, I've podcasted through every single chapter up to this point, 2 chapters at a time. We have like over 70 episodes, however many it is. I've always referred to them as this section as the favorite lines, but the other sections have fun names. And I tried one out last episode, a new name for it. I don't think the listeners liked it. It was Chosen Ones. My Chosen Ones. I don't think they liked it.
I don't mind it.
We're going to try a new one. We're going to try a new one because it also works with Harry Potter. Our incantations. All right. Incantations. I think that could work. Listeners, you didn't like the previous one. Let me know if you like that one. If not, back to the drawing board. But what's your first favorite line, Chase?
Honestly, so one of my favorite, I would say, throughout the entire series, at least prior to where we're at now is Harry's relationship with Sirius. I think that is one of the coolest things for Harry because it's his first, he's getting a chance to like get proper, guidance from somebody that truly cares for him more than just like what he's known for or like what he's able to do or whatever. This is a very minor thing, but before they go over to the ministry and stuff, Sirius just mentioned something. He just gives like a very simple line. He's like, don't lose your temper, be polite, stick to the facts, go do it. And I know that's like so small, but it's something that I think sits with him. And as we kind of proceed into like what we're doing, or it's just advice from somebody that's outside of, the people that he's been with the whole time. And I think it's something that he looks up to. And whether or not it was, great advice, it was simple and it was advice to Harry. And it just stuck out to me because like you get to see their relationship blossom and kind of like proceed throughout the series. And I just think it's cool that he kind of stepped in there and even just gave his own 2 cents because I think his words at that point in his, life or this point in the series are what stuck with him more than anything. And yeah, that stuck out to me. It's so simple, but it's just another moment of their relationship that I think was minor, but cool to witness again, in the series where I haven't reread and just kind of going back into this little minor section of this book and seeing how he's kind of just offering, that parental, guidance to him. And I really enjoyed that.
I like that a lot too, because, as you said, Harry doesn't have a father, and this is his father figure. And there's so many people around him that constantly give him advice, tell him what to do. He hasn't had Sirius for that long and he really looks up to him. And this is his main primary father figure. And what I love about the advice, as you said, it's simple, it's short, like easy to remember. It's one of those things. There's some of the best pieces of advice I feel like in moments like these that Harry's going into are ones that you can repeat to yourself over and over in the moment. So it's like simple, be polite, stick to the facts. Be polite.
It doesn't always have to be an extravagant, piece. I mean, some of my favorite quotes are just 4 words or 5 words or whatever. But like this one it just hit, here's what you're going to do. Keep it simple. I'm not going to elaborate. Done. And
yeah,
they don't go into too much detail on that, but it did stick out to me.
Anytime
kind of stepping in.
I'm a pastor, and anytime for my day job, and anytime I give a sermon, one of the things that I do, like I'll write down my message and then I look at it and I go, your main point, what you just said, make it simpler. Make it simpler. And it's just like, I'll go through like 3 or 4 rounds of make this simpler, just so it sticks in the head and it's easy to remember, but very good. So what my first favorite line that I had, to be honest, I didn't have that many for these 2 chapters, but the first one that I liked was when Harry sees the Fountain of Magical Brethren. We talked about it, but he thinks to himself, if I'm not expelled from Hogwarts, I'll put in 10 galleons. Harry found himself thinking desperately. And it's such a little kid thing to think too, or even sometimes an adult thing of like, if this goes well, I promise I'll do this. If this goes well, I'll do this. So I very much enjoyed seeing, so many times we have to see Harry be so mature and wise and much older than he is. I like this moment of like immature desperation. Adolescence. So that's one of mine. Did you have any more, or was that it for this chapter?
It's actually funny that one was one of my, I wouldn't say quotes, but I remember kind of looking at that as a section. But I agree. I think it was funny because it does remind me like as when I was a kid, and you almost like make bargains or deals with whoever your God is, and you're like, I'll stop doing this, or I'll do this if only you give me this one bone, or you toss me this bone. So I think that's cool.
Yeah. Another one I had, again, I like the funny moments in this chapter, but Mr. Weasley, after they see the windows, those are enchanted windows. Magical maintenance decided what weather we're getting every day. We had 2 months of hurricanes last time they were angling for a pay raise. And he's like, yeah, when they went on strike, our weather was not fun. It was just raining. However, I would have loved that because when I work, one thing I throw up on my like smart TV in my house, because I work from home a lot of the time, is like thunderstorm or rainy castle or whatever. I love that. Love that so much. And then my very last one for the chapter, I had at the very end, because I thought it was such a good setup for the next chapter. I loved how it ended. And I've never heard this expression before either. Harry's heart was beating a violent tattoo against his Adam's apple. He swallowed hard, turned the heavy iron door handle, and stepped inside the courtroom. So it sets up the chapter really well. I love what a great cliffhanger that is. These books often have some incredible cliffhangers, but that one expression, beating a violent tattoo against his Adam's apple, I had to take a second to think about what that meant, but what a visceral description of how much he can feel his heartbeat in his throat. So I enjoyed that description.
Stressed out, dry mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's all my favorite lines. Did you have any more?
None on that chapter, no. I have a lot more thoughts on the next one, but that's probably it on that one.
Moving on now, dear listeners, to our Transfiguration section. And this is the section where we highlight the changes that the movies made from the books. So Chase,
I'm going to be
sorry,
here.
You're not going to know any of these. I hate it to spoil for you these particular moments, but it's just
I'm not worried about movies. I'm not worried about movies. It's the books. I'm curious, though, to see what they've changed.
So one thing I did want to highlight, I always like mentioning things that the movies do better because so often it's not the case that the movies do things better.
Yeah.
But I loved seeing the Arthur Weasley actor in the underground, him navigating that. There's a really funny moment so in the book, we do get that funny moment of him loving the ticket machine and getting stuck at the turnstile.
Just his fascination with the Muggle world. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's the instance where there's an incident in the movie. It's one of the funniest moments, I think, in the series, and it's very small and quick, but he doesn't know how to get through the turnstile, and he tries to push through it. He has his back against it, and then Harry shows him the ticket, puts it in for him, and Arthur walks backwards through the turnstile. And I really like that moment. And that's not a book thing. That's just a movie thing.
Just like an add-in. I feel like this is a good chapter where you're kind of like what you're saying. And again, I haven't seen the books or the movies, so forgive me, but I feel like these are the chapters where the movie can kind of almost do better than the book because there is so much imagery involved here. And
absolutely,
this chapter specifically, like you said, it goes into the little details of other wizards' lives that we see for a split second. And I think they're really able to capture that probably in a movie better than a book. And you get to really have fun with what the world, looks like.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's see, there is no code at the phone booth. Whenever they walk in there, he just picks it up and it speaks to them. We don't get to see all the levels. So the way that and also the big thing with the movies, Chase, is that it's mostly omissions. There's not a whole lot of there is changes, but usually it's omissions, especially for a book like this, the biggest book that gets, I believe, the shortest movie, which is funny to me.
Makes sense.
But Harry doesn't get his wand checked at the beginning, so there's not that security checkpoint. We don't get to see Arthur's office, and we don't see all the different floors, because what happens in the movie is they walk into the elevator, they walk into the lift to go to Arthur's office, and we don't ever get to go to Arthur's office because Kingsley Shacklebolt walks in at one point. We do get to see the guy holding the fire-breathing chicken in the cardboard box. That guy is there, but Kingsley Shacklebolt walks in, gets behind everybody in the elevator and whispers into Arthur's ear. And Arthur's like, okay, I got you. And then he says to Harry, they changed the time of your hearing. And he goes, oh, really? When is it? And he goes, in 5 minutes. And so in the book, Arthur's really exasperated and freaked out. And he also has that whole conversation with Kingsley. But in this one, in the movie version, Arthur stays pretty calm the whole time. And the conversation with Kingsley is just a whisper in the ear, letting him know the details of what happened. So Perkins doesn't tell him, Kingsley tells him. So that's the biggest changes. And I think we also see there's this moment when Harry and Arthur are walking to the courtroom in the movie that's not in the book, but they pass by Cornelius Fudge and Lucius Malfoy talking to each other in the hall, which kind of gives the impression that Lucius is bribing, or at least at the very least talking more smack about Harry.
Just more foreshadowing into the corruption and stuff.
Yeah. Also, so you kind of already seen this. I don't know if you've picked up on it or not, but in the and it's the same at Epic Universe. But the Fountain of Magical Brethren in the book, it's just one statue, but in the movie, it's two different statues with all of the non-humans on one statue, looking over at the witch and the wizard on another statue. That's what it is in the movie, and in an Epic universe, it's that same thing. But those are all the differences between the book and the movie for that particular chapter. Moving on now to our Golden Snitches, which are behind the scenes, little lore tids and bits, fun things that the average listener or reader might not know about. So let me pull these up right here. Usually I get these from all kinds of different sources, the main one being the Harry Potter wiki. So the first one, as I mentioned, was the ministry entrance, but we kind of already talked about it. The code on it, 62442, that spells magic. We've mentioned that several times now. The Fountain of Magical Brethren. Oh, did I have anything on that? The most interesting thing is that the fountain is said to be over like a water chamber that has a kelpie inside of it. So like there's underneath the fountain where they keep all the water, they keep a little magical kelpie down there. And I thought that was neat. So, yeah.
Is that mentioned in these chapters, or is that just like
It's not. It's
okay,
not.
I didn't think so. I was like, oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I read it on the wiki, like I said, but I don't remember where that's mentioned. A lot of times, Chase, the extra lore comes from like the video games or the extra articles that JK put on our website. A lot from Hogwarts Mystery, that phone game. There's a lot of extra lore from there, which technically isn't canon, but it's fun. So anyway, what else we got? I wrote down St. Mungo's, kind of. So I'm not going to say this here, listener, because the Golden Snitch section, can get pretty big sometimes. But we do get the first mention of St. Mungo's Hospital. And so we'll visit that place later, small spoiler. So I don't want to say too much about it right now. The other one, the bog standard chicken. So as we've mentioned before, there's a guy holding a chicken that's a fire-breathing chicken. And, the line was, "What do you got there, Bob?" Bob says, "We're not sure. We thought it was a bog standard chicken until it started breathing fire. Looks like a serious breach of the ban on experimental breeding to me." And so I heard the term bog standard and I was like, what does that mean? That part, it's a fun game, Chase, to play. Is it magic or is it British? That's just British slang for like normal. We thought it was like a run of the mill, I guess you would say, which is kind of an odd thing to say.
Interesting. So bog is normal.
Yeah, bog standard is their version of run of the mill.
Interesting.
But in something that's mentioned in the Hogwarts Legacy video game is that there is mention of a common Welsh green that is bred with a chicken to create something called a dricken. So a dragon and a chicken making a dricken. And that is that's in the Hogwarts Legacy video game. And so that might have been a nod to this particular creature in this chapter. And like I said, Bob is in the movie. I don't know if you can see it, listeners. I'll try to put it up to the screen. He kind of looks like Jack Black. But anyway, but that's all we got on the bog standard chicken. The next one is the interdepartmental memos. And so, as we mentioned, there are these let me just start at the beginning of the wiki. Interdepartmental memos were a method of communication between departments at the British Ministry of Magic. The use of interdepartmental memos, that's a fun word to say, were regulated by Clause 453-09-D of the Ministry of Magic. As late as 1927, the ministry employed owls for this purpose, but discontinued use because they left droppings everywhere. I don't know, I don't think that's mentioned in the chapter, but that's another line.
Not that I recall.
That's something I forgot to say in the Transfiguration. Arthur says that to Harry. He was like, we used to use owls. The mess was like insane.
The droppings. Yeah.
But the only other thing I thought was worth saying was that they're kept up with something called a routing spell. So anytime in the wizarding world, if you want to send something somewhere, you got to cast a routing spell on it. And then last two for this chapter. One was the Muggle-worthy excuse office. So I'm glad that you held on to this as well, that stuck out in your mind. Because when I was reading these, I was like, that one just sticks out to me. What does that even mean? Muggle-worthy excuse committee. On level 3 of the British Ministry of Magic, the Muggle-worthy excuse committee was a division of the Department of Magical Accidents and Catastrophes. Members of this committee thought up excuses that would explain magical happenings to Muggles. And so something that they would have been involved with was when Peter Pettigrew framed Sirius Black and all those muggles died, they came up with like the excuse for that.
That was a big day for them.
That was, yeah, we haven't been that busy in quite a minute.
That was a big day for them.
Yeah. So that's about it for them. And then the very last one, Bodrick Bode. That is a guy that's mentioned in this particular chapter. The only thing to say is, so if you don't remember, listeners, as they're getting onto the elevator to go down to the trial, once they got the news that everything's been changed, a like kind of creepy looking wizard walks in. He's a little scary, and he walks into the lift and he just stares at them and he's like, "What are y'all doing?" And Arthur says his name is Bode. Well, we've seen this guy before. Bodrick Bode was at the World Cup. He was one of the people Arthur pointed out before. This guy works for the Department of Mysteries, which is a thing that will come up later. So anyway, he's an unspeakable. That's his particular job. So anyway, that's all we got for the Golden Snitches, and that wraps up everything for Chapter 7. Chase, you good to go?
Yeah, let's dive in. Let's do it.
Let's hit it. Chapter 8, The Hearing. Harry walks into the chamber, and he's like, shoot, I've been here before. And as you remember, listeners, this is where he went in the pensieve in Dumbledore's memory bank, you know? Right? He's like, this is where they send people to Azkaban. Like, these are for the big boy trials. He notices the chains on the chair, and he's like, don't you touch me now, chains. All right, you leave me alone. A voice tells him that he's late. And some of these moments make me laugh so much. And Harry, he took Sirius's advice. As you said, he was polite because the voice says, like, you're late. And he goes, I'm sorry, I didn't get the message like until just a second ago. And the voice says, that's not the Wizengamot's fault. And I was like, brother, it's somebody's fault. All right? I think you meant for me
Which we get into. Dumbledore, my man.
Oh, I love this. So he sits in the chain chair and the trial begins. I wrote, this is the first time Harry is seeing Fudge since the night of the third task. And it was kind of sad reading it because every other time he's always seen Fudge to be, the text says he had this indulgent smile. And it's supposed to be this, like, he's supposed to be a nice guy to Harry. And this is the first time he comes across Fudge being an absolute jerk to him.
There was a big shift. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I remember thinking was like, I feel like what would make more sense to me if I'm Cornelius Fudge is that I don't think Harry's lying. I think that like genuinely all of the trauma has caught up to him. And so I'm not going to approach him as this angry jerk, but as like, I would talk to him more like he's a crazy person, not as he's a liar, you know, if I were to do one or the other. So that always threw me off. Anyway, Fudge has Madam Bones to his left and Dolores Umbridge to his right, and I like that she's in the shadows, like Harry can't see her. But Bones gives McGonagall vibes to me, I wrote down, because it says she has a monocle, square jaw, she's very forbidding, and the first time that we see McGonagall, Harry describes her as somebody you would not want to cross. So I feel like Madam Bones and McGonagall are like cut from the same cloth and would be very good friends.
Or biggest enemies.
Yeah. She's strict and a rule follower, but at the same time, just like McGonagall, she like
very grounded.
Sees reason. Yeah, is very grounded. It's a good way to say it. So anyway, Percy doesn't even look at Harry. Screw that guy. And just when things look like they can't get worse, Daddy Dumbledore walks in. Yay! I did write down. So he comes in and he's like, witness for the defense. And he says his name. But I always thought, he doesn't really act like a witness. He's a lawyer. I don't know why he calls himself a witness.
Yeah. Especially in this trial, like he definitely comes off almost as like Harry's attorney.
The only thing he really witnesses about is the stuff at Hogwarts. Because near the end of the trial, Fudge is like, what about all the things he's done at Hogwarts? And he's like, that ain't none of your freaking business.
Does not involve you guys.
So everyone is afraid of Dumbledore. And one of my favorite moments of the chapter, everybody's afraid and they're all muttering, except for the two old witches in the back. They're like, hey, Dumbledore. He's like, what's up?
They're just happy to be there.
They probably talk more like, how you doing, Dumbledore? Fudge says, so you got our message? Dumbledore's like, didn't need it. I was here 3 hours early. Don't got to get ready when you stay ready, Chase. That's Dumbledore's motto. So he don't want no, what did I write down? I wrote down, he doesn't need no chair. All right. Percy wanted to Fudge told Percy to like conjure it up. And he's like, Percy, I don't want a freaking chair from you.
Nah,
I'll
doesn't
do it
even wanna
myself.
look at him. Yep.
Conjures up his own chair in a flash. Back to the actual hearing now, though, and they're reading off the charges. Fudge tries to rush it. And we have this whole instance of Harry continuously trying to say, like, I did it because of the dement. I did it because, and Fudge just keeps like barreling through. And Bones, I do like this moment. Bones is, when she starts saying her questions, it's because she's impressed. You know, she's like, wait a minute. You conjured a Patronus? And Harry's like, yeah, I only did it because of, and she goes, a corporeal Patronus? You do corporeals too?
Like the
That's
full
crazy.
thing.
You're 15? Dang.
I think that's the
Dadgum.
first time too for Harry that he might not have realized this, but that was the first time I think me as a reader realized how far ahead or powerful he was in a way. Because I think that could be wrong. Where I know Hermione and Ron also had brought it up several times, but where you're kind of seeing the reaction from the big up. I mean, you're talking the Ministry of Magic, which is like, you know, the head honcho of their
And
world.
she's a boss. All right?
And exactly.
Madame
Yeah.
Bones
So
is
like
an incredibly powerful witch.
seeing her impressed from somebody like outside of the school itself, I think that was the first time I, as a reader, really realized, shoot, like he is someone to be, you know, not to mess with, essentially, or he's people are scared of him, which is evident in this chapter. But yeah, that stuck out to me very heavily as well.
Yeah, I get a little perturbed when, so Harry's my favorite character. I love him. I'm kind of basic like that. But it always bothers me when people say Harry's not a powerful wizard. It's just like these special elements to him. It's what people did for him or some other thing that I can't mention because spoiler stuff.
Right.
But I completely disagree because we have moments like this where
he's a powerful wizard. Yeah. And I think there's a difference between power and, you know, training or knowing how to actually use, like someone can be very strong, but lose whatever because they don't know how to use their muscles. And I think I even had talked about this in one of, like, this is like book 1 or 2, but, you know, Harry's biggest asset, like he's a powerful wizard, but without, you know, Ron or Hermione, he was not able to do a lot of things like Sorcerer's Stone, for example. But there was things that he did that nobody else could have done. And like that is a testament to his power. He just doesn't know how to like use it. But yeah.
I think the biggest thing, or the thing that puts Harry over the top more than anybody else is just like his Gryffindor bravery. They're brave. Like he's
for sure. Yeah.
All right, let's full send. Harry is a full send kind of guy. Anyway, so Bones impressed and Fudge kills the vibe because the whole courtroom is like, wow, yeah, daggum, that is pretty cool. And Fudge goes, well, I would think the more impressive, the worse that it is. And 2 notes. 1, the voice acting in the new audiobook. So we've said, Chase, you probably don't know, but on this podcast, we've complimented Jim Dale to death. All right. I love that man. But listening to these new full cast audio versions, the voice actor for Harry does a great job in this moment of like conveying frustration and trying to like really just get his point across. But the other big thing to note in this moment, after Fudge says, I would think that the more impressive, the worse it is. I love the thing that sets Harry off, that finally makes him forget Sirius's advice of stop being polite and just do his full send, is when he sees freaking Percy, you know, says with his like sanctimonious nod at what Fudge was saying, like, yeah, Fudge, you're right. Harry, the text says like, it was the sight of Percy and his sanctimonious nod that made Harry like give up on it. Just, yeah.
Yeah.
It was because of the freaking Dementors. So screw you, Percy. But they question that because they're like, why would Dementors be in Little Winching? So Fudge tries to ignore Harry, but Dumbledore says, shut up, Fudge. We have a witness. Fudge says he
thank
wants
goodness
to,
somebody did.
Fudge says he wants to wrap this up quickly. And this is covered several times in this chapter, but it's not surprising, but it is astounding the hypocrisy of how he's dealing with this. He's like, I don't want to make this a big deal. Like that's what he's implying by saying, I want this to go quickly.
But we want to completely ruin Harry's life at the same time.
But also, let's change the time of the trial, not just make it a small like misdemeanor court trial with just Madame Bones, but let's invite the whole Supreme Court and the Senate to deal with this. And
put him in a chain chair.
Yeah. You're speaking out of both sides of your mouth, buddy. No, I'm not. Anyway, Madam Bones is like, Fudge, if they got witnesses, they got the right to bring those witnesses up. So in comes ... Figgy! Figgy comes in, Mrs. Fig. Dumbledore, so polite, stands up, gives him her chair, and then makes him his own chair. I like that he doesn't just make her a new chair, because he's like, I warmed this one up for you. And then he gives her, and he makes his own. But they get to questioning her. They ask, can Squibs see Dementors? And I like that she goes, she pulls a Bob the Builder on him. She's like, yes, we can.
Sure can.
That's
Matter
right.
of fact.
Actually. So she says her side of the story. We all know what happened. Two moments that I thought were funny, though, is, one, she says she saw two Dementors running. They're like, running? Dementors don't run. She's like, that's what I meant. I meant to say glide. I meant that.
Like, so corrects herself right there. Just, they couldn't have picked somebody that was like worse as far as, giving a reliable source. Mm-hmm. And then she starts it off with, I saw them running. And that made me laugh.
That's what I meant.
We all know they don't do that. Yeah.
I mean, that's freaking, in book 4, when Harry's in the maze, that's why he's able to tell that it's a boggart, not a Dementor, because it's like tripping over his robes.
Oh, I never caught that. Interesting. Yeah.
So that's a funny moment, but also the other funny one is when Madam Bones goes, can you describe the two of them? And she goes, yes. One was rather large and the other was rather skinny. Not
she was like, no, the Dementors, you idiot.
But she does save it, though, right at the end, when she describes the feeling that Dementors give a person. Like, even Madam Bones' eyes widen up, and she's talking about all the happiness fading and remembering horrible things.
Chills, like trying to explain what happened. Yeah.
It is really funny, though, that she felt the need to say, and then the skinny boy, he tried to conjure a Patronus and failed twice. He only sent out mist 2 times, and then he did the corporeal. And Harry's probably like, we didn't need to mention that. I know it's all about the details, but still. But anyway, she finishes up her story, and they dismiss her. Fudge tries to say that she wasn't that convincing of a witness. I feel like that's not appropriate for a judge just to say in front of a whole courtroom, but whatever. I do love that when he says that, Madam Bones says in her big booming voice, oh, I don't know. I found it rather convincing myself. Like, it's kind of overpowering him. Madam Bones is. So if you can't tell,
it puts some discredit, or it just kind of like throws another element of like, why are we just jumping to conclusions? Like, I appreciated that it wasn't just Dumbledore in that moment. That was kind of like throwing, some statements back at Fudge, and it just wasn't overpowering because it's like, why are we rushing through this?
Yeah, I liked that. Kind of what it did for me was it just highlighted how biased Fudge was and how unbiased Fig was, Bones. Because she doesn't say that the description of what happened or what they looked like was accurate, but she says, but the way she described the feeling Dementors give was pretty accurate. Because I don't think Squibs can see Dementors. I think that's actually not correct. And Madam Bones kind of picks up on that, but they can feel them.
Yeah.
So she's able to get to that truth. So Fudge tries to say he doesn't see why Dementors would just happen to be there by coincidence. And Dumbledore says, probably because it wasn't just a coincidence. And that's when the whole courtroom's like, ooh, what's he talking? What's he getting at? What's that mean? Dumbledore, this is when he just like kind of goes scorched earth, means like, y'all ain't got your Dementoids under control. Shout out Vernon. I had this dumb rant where I was like, you made poor Vernon Dursley all upset now. All right. Them Dursleys is good people. And y'all out here at the ministry can't keep your critters under control. You need to keep them on a leash if you're going to let them out. All right.
I think you need to narrate the next book. You should be on the dramatic audio version.
I didn't full send it. I got a little nervous, but that's somewhat of a country Dumbledore there. But that's not what he said, or that's not what he says this like whole trial is about. And y'all know what happens. Like, they get into a little banter back and forth, and they argue about whether or not Voldemort sent the Dementors. At one point, Umbridge finally speaks. Like, she pops up. Shout out, I don't know if you know this, Chase, Keira Knightley voices Umbridge in the audiobook. And I don't know what I was going to expect when I heard the voice, but it's pretty good. I was like, wow. Yeah, I didn't even think it was like, I only knew it was Keira Knightley because I knew it was her. Like, if it wasn't, I would have been like,
I had no idea.
Yeah, so she does a great job. I like that Harry notices the fake laughter of all the other people, because when Umbridge finishes her sentence, it says she has this silvery laugh, and everybody else kind of laughs in with, but Harry's like, that's fake laughter. They're all uncomfortable too. Nobody likes
It's good.
Umbridge.
It's good foreshadowing. I will say that. Like,
Yeah.
because this is, correct me if I'm wrong, this is our first introduction to Umbridge, is it not?
It is.
It is.
Very first
yeah.
time.
Which was really cool to reread. And we'll get into that later, because that really was probably my favorite portion of the reread. But there's this, and as you continue, like as readers, like this is a great chapter for foreshadowing for the rest of the series. And I think a lot can be dove into in this chapter that answers a lot of questions that I had later on in the book. But coming back to it and reading it for the second time rather, it's just funny knowing her character and how she develops and then her in this moment here.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, wow, I hate that person.
Immediately.
Yeah. Dumbledore logics them about Dementors, because he's like, listen, if no I'm trying to assert Dementors are out of Ministry control. But if they aren't, then the only reason Dementors would be there would be because the Ministry sent them. So Fudge, you need to look into that, buddy. All right. Fudge gets all ticked off about that. But I also love all the moments that Dumbledore just treats Fudge like a child. There's several moments where he drops like, of course you will. Of course you know that. But of course you wouldn't want to have a miscarriage of justice.
Right.
Love all those. He really gets Fudge at this one point saying something like, well, I'm sure you wouldn't care how long it took as long as justice was done. Right, Cornelius? And he also, something else I picked up on, I don't know if you caught this. He says Cornelius the whole time, but Fudge never calls him Albus. Like, Dumbledore staying on a first name basis.
It's
but
kind
Fudge
of like
just refers to him as Dumbledore the whole time.
Removing his not respect. What am I trying to say? Like his authority in a way. Like he's almost kind of tearing apart his in a very clever way, might I add. But
yeah, it's like with Dumbledore, it's like bringing him down to his level, and with Fudge, what he's doing by only referring to him as Dumbledore is
elevates
distancing.
him in a way. Yeah,
elevate. Yeah, that too. So Dumbledore stays polite, but gets a little more serious when Fudge tries to mention Hogwarts. As we mentioned, he's like, "That's my turf, bro. You have no right to do anything over there. You're going to want to chill if you go into that subject." Anyway, Dumbledore eventually just says, "All right, that's probably it. Let's wrap it up and vote now." And I like in Harry's inner monologue, he's like, "What? I feel like there's more stuff we can say. Come on, please. Maybe I should have mentioned some of the things of what happened." But they just put it to a vote. And guess what? They clear Harry of all charges. Yay.
End of the series right there.
That's right. And then Dumbledore hits him with this is what I do whenever I leave places. I'm usually the first to leave a function of all my friends.
Good for you.
And it's like, listen, I don't like the mood to sour. All right, let's leave while it's good.
While it's up. Yep.
That's right. And one of the things I usually say when I wrap it up is, you know what? This was great. I had a good time. You had a good time. We simply must do this again sometime. Anyway, I'll be seeing you. And then I roll out. And that's kind of what Dumbledore hits him with, because he doesn't even say a word to Harry.
He does, but everything was said there that needs to be said. Like, you know what I mean? There wasn't really anything left for the voters for interpretation. Like, I mean, he got it out in the right way. And I think him doing a judgment call there was great, because at that point, all you could really do was go down. And I think it was ended because he knew, like, I got what I needed to say out. And he left Fudge kind of,
He's like, I just did the sickest thing. If I were to say any more words, I'd look less cool. You know what made me look more cool? Not talking to this teenager. I'm rolling.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the chapter. Yay. Moving on now to our favorite lines. All right. I will kick it off with my first one. My first favorite line. Hopefully, I don't steal any of yours, but this is Dumbledore speaking. Not to worry, said Dumbledore pleasantly. He took out his wand, gave it a little flick, and a squashy chintz armchair appeared out of nowhere next to Harry. Dumbledore sat down, put the tips of his long fingers together and looked at Fudge over them with an expression of polite interest. The Dumbledore vibes are immaculate. Like, that is, if you were to find like 5 sentences in the whole series that perfectly describe Dumbledore's demeanor, that's one of them. Just the so polite, so chill, and then fingers together. It's like, proceed. What did you have to say? I love it. So that's my first favorite line. What about you, Chase?
So again, back to the beginning of this episode, I mentioned this is my favorite book, and it's because of the politics. Like, I think it's incredible getting to see like the political, just them beating heads with each other at this moment, because on one hand you have Fudge, who we liked at the beginning, like he wasn't a bad guy until his, I would say, position was being questioned, or rather challenged by this kid essentially. But what I really, really, really liked about this chapter was also a Dumbledore quote, and it was where he said, "I don't think any of us believed the Dementors were there by coincidence." And I think this is one of the first, if not the first times that in a large setting that the Ministry in a sense is being questioned. And that's kind of where he leads into his statements about maybe we need to look into the Ministry. Like, why were the Dementors there? Like, is it somebody inside that's
maybe
doing
y'all
this stuff?
suck a bit.
Maybe you guys suck. But it was a good point to make, because it led into that portion of the conversation where he was kind of like working on Harry and clearing his name. But I just really liked it because it's a moment where somebody in power, somebody that is respected like Dumbledore, is questioning the Ministry. And it was just that's where Umbridge is just like, absolutely not. Like, that's where she kind of jumps in and she's like, no one questions the Ministry, or like, who do you think you are, or whatnot. But I love that whole chunk right there. And I think Dumbledore kind of kicking that off was legendary.
Yeah, anytime we get extended Dumbledore scenes, they're wonderful. They're some of the best
they're
moments
rare
in the series.
They're rare, but they are. Yeah, I agree. When he speaks, you listen.
That's why he left right away. He didn't have anything else to say. He wanted to keep that element about him. Soon after yours, the one you just mentioned, well, shout out to, I love that line of Harry getting mad at Percy, and that's when he lost his cool. But my only other favorite line for this chapter was, "Laws can be changed," said Fudge savagely. "Of course they can," said Dumbledore, inclining his head. "And you certainly seem to be making many changes, Cornelius. Why, in a few short weeks since I was asked to leave the Wizengamot, it has already become the practice to hold a full criminal trial to deal with a simple matter of underage magic." I love, he's so good at this, so good at lawyering,
just knows what he's
so good
about.
at trapping them. It's wonderful. All the things you said in yours, apply it to that particular moment as well. But that's all my favorite lines. Did you have any more?
I did. I had one more. Okay, so my last section that really stuck out to me, and I want to like approach this in a way that's not spoilery. So maybe
good luck.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly. So this is when Dumbledore had, implied that the Ministry possibly, had something to do with this. And when Umbridge stood up, perchance, Dolores says, "I'm sure I must have misunderstood you, Professor Dumbledore," she said with a simper that left her big round eyes as cold as ever. "So silly of me, but it sounded for a teensy moment as though you were suggesting that the Ministry of Magic had ordered an attack on this boy." And I thought that was interesting because in a way she is coming at Dumbledore in a position, or she's at least inserting herself in a position that overpowers Fudge in that moment. Or I see her almost more as like the head honcho in that moment.
Yeah,
and
speaking
I think
up for Fudge when Fudge should be the one speaking.
When he should be the one speaking. And, that immediate assumption that the Ministry had anything to do with it, you would think, because I mean, you look at how when Fudge came at Hogwarts and how that's where you see Dumbledore go 10 toes down. That is my territory. Like, you're not messing with that. This is, I think, a similar jab that you would expect Fudge to really butt in right there and like knock down any absolutely put under the rug that anything was done by the Ministry. And I thought it was really interesting how Umbridge was the one that kind of spoke up in that moment. And you really get to see that side of her in a way, and how she represents the ministry and how she is just like cold-blooded. That is who she is with.
It's like those memes when you'll see like a girl will be like, my husband wants to show you like this thing he's been working on, and you're going to be
And it's like-
nice. And he
and
steps
you're going to be
forward
nice
and
about
says
it.
the
Yeah,
thing, and she's in the
trend
background
or whatever.
going, you know.
She's kind of the same way in that moment. And it was an interesting exchange right there where you just see Umbridge kind of step in for Fudge. And it's an interesting parallel because it's almost like, you know, in any political environment where sometimes the puppet is being puppeted, if that's the right way of saying it, by somebody, you know, that might not be as front facing. And I think this is an incredibly visual piece of that. And I don't know, that really stuck out to me how she like stepped up there. And in my opinion, that should have been Fudge. That was like,
Well, to your point, it highlights how much of a coward Fudge is. Like the whole reason all of this is happening is because Fudge is insecure and he's cowardly.
100%. Yeah.
Where Dolores, so like Fudge goes out of his way to avoid things. Where Dolores, we come to learn, she'll get in the mud to make things happen.
Yeah. You got Fudge who is protecting his
mud. She hates
reputation.
actual mud.
Yeah. Fudge is protecting his reputation, and then you have Dolores who is protecting the ministry and the magic side of things. And I think that is an interesting like shift in this section where you get to see, I guess, their priorities. And I think they're highlighted very well right there.
And then you got Madam Bones just over there like, guys, I'm just trying to do a trial. I'm just trying to do my job.
Can we wrap this up?
Well, that, speaking of, wraps up our favorite line section. Moving on, or did you have any more? I'm sorry.
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Moving on now to our transfigurations. Differences that the movies made from the books. So in this particular chapter, I believe, I might be wrong about this, but I believe there are no chains hanging from the chair in the movie. I think it's just a big, fancy, intimidating looking chair, but it is chainless. Also, in the book, Harry stays in that chair the whole time. And Dumbledore, you know, walks in, conjures up 2 more chairs. But in the movie, when Dumbledore walks in, he doesn't conjure up a chair. He just stands the whole time talking next to the chair. And then when Mrs. Fig comes in, you know, it's like a scene cut, and Harry is actually in the stands behind the chairs, and Fig is in the chair, and Dumbledore's still walking around. So it's not like more magic is had. It's just basically, long story short, Harry stays in the chair in the book. He gets out of it in the movie, and Dumbledore doesn't make one. Anyway, it's also a much shorter trial. As you could have guessed, they omit a lot of the conversation. There's still some really good moments. Again, Dumbledore walking in, saying his full name, and a little bit of the back and forth about Dumbledore implying that Voldemort's returned and Fudge denying it. Fudge still tries to rush it. It's faithful in many ways. It's just much shorter. And then when the voting happens in the movie, they have not sent Fig out of the room. Like Fig gives her testimony, and then that's when they take their vote, and Fig is still sitting in the chair. And it's a really funny moment where Amelia says, those in favor of clearing the accused of all charges. Mrs. Fig puts up her hand like she wants to take a vote. And then finally, last movie change is that in the book, when Fudge gives the announcement that Harry's cleared of all charges, he's like furious when he says it. He's super angry. In the movie, he probably is angry, but the way that the actor portrays it, he's just annoyed. He's like, accused of all charges, whatever. And then that's the end. So he composes himself a lot more in the movie, I would say. But that's all of our transfigurations. Moving on now to our golden snitches. So the first one, I kind of had to like do a bit of a reach for this chapter because a lot of things have been stuff we've already mentioned before. There wasn't a lot of new things, but the 2 things that I did a reach on, and I was like, wow, this is actually, I find very interesting. First one, Amelia Susan Bones is the first time I believe it's the first time we hear about her. She might have mentioned before, but it's the first time we see her. And so she was she was a British witch and celebrated head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. She likely attended Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. She had a seat on the Wizengamot and talks about, you know, her role during this trial and stuff that happens in future books. But something I thought was interesting, we get some information about the first Wizarding War. We get information about Voldemort's first rise to power and what happened in Amelia's life then. So it says, little is known about Amelia's early life. Other than that, the first Wizarding War took a heavy toll on her family. Her father and mother were killed by Lord Voldemort himself. And Amelia's brother Edgar, a member of the Order of the Phoenix, his wife, and their children were also killed by Death Eaters. So this girl's like most of her family were taken out by Voldemort and his gang. However, she had at least one surviving sibling. That person's not mentioned, but that is her sibling that survived is the father of Susan Bones, who is named after Amelia Susan Bones, the Hufflepuff that goes to Hogwarts that is in Harry's year. So that's really all I can say without spoiling things later on. But I thought that was really interesting that she had like that whole family history, and it also speaks probably to why she joined like wizarding law and became part of like the judicial system, because she wanted to fight back against these types of things. Yeah. Make a change. I don't know why that came in my head. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention as our golden snitch for this chapter is how I wanted to say it. Chase, I know you've always wondered, why did JK give Dumbledore that crazy, long, seemingly silly name? All right. Been a question on your mind for as long as you can remember. Well, we have a potential answer for you. If you go on the Harry Potter wiki and look at the etymology for all of his names, I thought this was really interesting. Dumbledore's given names could be interpreted as representing the 4 primary divisions of the British Isles. So Albus is a Latin word for white, also a Roman cognomen. According to Rowling herself, the first names of Albus Dumbledore and Rubeus Hagrid were chosen based on the white and the red meaning of their names, which were considered essential mystical components of alchemy. Dumbledore was given the white for asceticism, a spiritual theoretician, brilliant, idealized, and somewhat detached. Percival is a legendary Arthurian knight from Wales involved in the Grail quest, and Le Morte Arthur by Thomas Malory. Percival is both the hero of the quest for the Grail and narrator of the tale. As is the case for Dumbledore in parts of the story, it is a name which presumably comes from his father. Wulfric is an Anglo-Saxon name found in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles and could be representative of England. Wulfric translates literally as wolf power and is reminiscent of another similar name, Beowulf, which means powerful wolf bear. But that's just talking about how that one represents the British Isle. Moving on though, Brian, so the one that doesn't make any sense, why is Brian included? Brian is the name of the legendary Irish High King and hero Brian Boru, who defeated the Vikings at the Battle of Clontarf near Dublin. Dumbledore himself was a veteran of many wizarding battles against dark wizards. However, I like this note too, this name was probably just chosen because of its comic mundanity compared to the other 4 names. And then finally, Dumbledore is an 18th century English word for bumblebee. It is still used in Newfoundland, Canada to refer to a bumblebee. Rowling stated she imagined him flitting around the castle, humming to himself like a bumblebee. But anyway, that's a long way of just saying, I thought that was interesting that all of his names could be representative of each of the divisions of
that's really
the British Isles.
A lot more clever than I expected.
I know, right? I mentioned it to you earlier, my wife writing a book, there's so many times that things she has to look up of like, or ascribe meaning to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And this person's name is this. What does that give away about their character,
Oh man, I bet you learned so much writing a book just with all that research that you do.
You know what Barry means, Chase? Farmer.
Barry?
It just means farmer.
In the UK, it means that?
I looked it up one time. I was like, what does my name mean? It just meant farmer.
Oh. Wonder what Chase means.
Yeah, did you know what Chase means?
I have no idea. Meaning.
I have 2 middle names, and they mean something cool. They mean
so do I. Do you actually?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Samuel means called by God, and William means protector.
So sweet. One of mine is also William. So
sick.
Now I know that. And then the other one is Robert. I have no idea what that means. They're just both my grandfather's names, but that's funny.
It means Bob.
Bob. Yeah, pretty much. That's what we called him anyways. So.
Did you find what Chase meant?
Yeah, Chase. To run or go after someone or something to catch them. To try hard to get a goal or to drive someone away.
Chase,
Wait,
no,
did
you
I-
gotta. You just Google the definition of the word. You gotta look up what the name. You gotta type in what does the name Chase mean.
All right, what does the name Chase mean? Sorry,
Somebody's
I
name
got
is
the
Hope.
definition.
What does hope mean?
All right, yeah, seriously. The name Chase means hunter or huntsman, originated from the old French word, I can't pronounce that, to catch or seize, meaning to catch or seize. All right, we'll take it.
That makes sense as well. You know, that fits the name Chase. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, hunter, huntsman. All right, cool. I gave you the definition of Chase. That's crazy.
Very good. Well, that wraps up the main bulk of our episode, listeners. In just a moment, we will be heading into our restricted section. Or, Chase, every single book, I give it like a second bonus name that goes along with the book. So, you know, in the first book, it was the third floor corridor. Book 2, it was the Chamber of Secrets. This one, I have dubbed it the Department of Mysteries. Ooh.
Perfect.
It fits perfect. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, I get a little amped about it. Somebody made fun of it. And I was like, that works so well.
Let them make fun of it. The
Yeah.
names are clever.
So before we move on, though, for anybody that doesn't want to be spoiled about the rest of the series and our different thoughts and things we want to say, what are you doing? You need to get on out of here. First of all, though, thank you so much for listening. We're glad to have you. Make sure you follow Chase on his socials. Chase, what were those again?
Instagram is Chase Keller Books, and TikTok is Chase_Keller.
Chase_Keller. Check him out, everybody. I hear it's Keller content.
Oh, clever.
That's right. Maybe the names aren't that clever. Anyway,
Keller is German. I do know that much. What it means, I don't know. So I might look that one up too.
yeah. But yeah, check out his socials, and we hope to see you next week. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Bam, bam, bam. All right.
See you guys.
Moving on now. We are in the restricted section, the Department of Mysteries. All right. For those of you antsy kids who didn't want to stay at Hogwarts and wait for the ministry to help or the order to help, you hopped on your Thestrals and you flew over here to the Department of Mysteries, and you'd only get that if you've read the rest of the book. All right, let's do this. So first few things I want to mention. One, we get a Scrimgeour reference. So it's the first time Scrimgeour's name is mentioned, you know, the guy who becomes the Minister for Magic after
Yes.
Fudge.
Yes.
So he is mentioned at the breakfast table in the first chapter that we covered. Tonks said that Scrimgeour has been asking her and Kingsley some rather like difficult questions. So it's the first time his name is ever mentioned. I thought that was kind of cool. It also shows like his get-to-itiveness, because like one of the things we learn about him is he's like, he goes for it. He's not like Fudge at all, who like refrains from action. Scrimgeour is all about that action.
Dives in. Yeah.
Yeah. So we get a first mention of him. We also get a Quibbler reference. The Quibbler is mentioned for the very first
I
time.
noticed that. Okay, so that's the first time it was mentioned. And was it Weasley, Mr. Weasley, that's what they handed off, right?
Yeah, when Shacklebolt hands him the article
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
Sirius. And it's the one that is like, it says that Sirius is really a musician named Stubby Boardman or something like that.
Yeah, something stupid, but
Yeah. So that's the first mention of the Quibbler. And then I wrote down poor Madam Bones, because she ends up dying in, I think it's book 6, like at the beginning of book 6, during the Other Minister chapter. I think they're talking about that. That it's mentioned in the newspaper, the Muggle newspaper, that she was killed. And I believe she's killed just like her parents by Voldemort himself. So she was a beast. All right. She like, it took Voldemort to do it. I got 2 more things. I'm saving the big one for the end. The statue. I mentioned that I couldn't mention everything about the statue, the Fountain of Magical Brethren. It dies, at the end of the. So one, Harry does deposit a whole bunch of galleons. I think he does more than 10. He like empties his sack into there.
oh, does he?
Yeah. But then at the end of the book, during the battle between Voldemort and Dumbledore, he like uses the statue to do things for him, like to hold down Bellatrix, to block people from Avada Kedavras. So it gets ruined and destroyed, and then it gets replaced with an even more racist statue. So love government. Anyway. Okay, so the last one I had was, and this is the bigger one, it's that Umbridge is the one who sent the Dementors. So, you know, I imagine this is kind of what you're trying to get at earlier, but like,
Yeah,
it's
I didn't want to
so
like
crazy.
say it.
She's the one that is saying like, it seems so crazy. Like, it seems like you implied that the ministry, me, sent
Which,
these Dementors.
yeah, and it goes to, oh my gosh, like this is just such a good chapter. And I, you know, in hindsight, no, I didn't realize when I read it the first time, obviously, how good it was. Like this, just rereading these two makes me want to reread the entire series. But
That's what I always say about this series. Its power is that it is, to me, it is the most rereadable series of all time.
yeah, even just these two chapters that I do. I mean, this is the first time I picked this back up in months or whenever I finished it on my first go around. But I mean, just seeing, because I do remember, you know, that being the case with Dolores, but the way she is just incredibly like calculated and manipulative and such a gaslighter in this chapter alone is, I mean, it's just a perfect representation, and it sets it up for, you know, what's to come down the road. I don't think I've ever hated a character so quickly. And I do think I mentioned that on one of my videos when I started this book, was when she was introduced, I was like, this is the first character I despise in such a quick amount of time.
In my
And
core.
in my core hatred, like so fast. And it's because she makes you, or tries to make you, and does a very good job at it, make you look stupid. I mean, and this is one of those moments where it's just like, are you suggesting that like blah blah blah? We had anything
I
to do
did
with
the
it?
very thing that I did.
Yeah, are you suggesting I did what I did? Like, yeah, we are.
I also found it too, like the fact that Dolores Umbridge is the one who sent the Dementors, which isn't in the movie. Chase, you might be surprised to know, nobody mentions it. It's never found out why the Dementors were sent to Harry on that night. It's just a plot line that is dropped. Like they don't mention it again in the movie. But it's Dolores, like, who sends the. So, given the fact that it's Dolores who sent the Dementors, it makes it even more ironic that her punishment for Harry is writing, "I must not tell lies." Like, to me, that's just crazy that's the what she uses.
And she lies more than probably anybody. That's crazy. That was dropped from the movies, because like that chapter where it, you know, where it does the whole ties everything together on, you know, what happened over the last 12,000 pages. That's like a big part. I mean, that's where it kind of starts, and you know,
I think to me, it's kind of, it's almost. This works both ways. Like, you can see how they might miss it, but also, holy crap, how did you miss it? And what I mean by that is, when it's revealed in the book, it's not even that big of a sentence. And what I mean by that, it's just a sentence. Like, she says, I was the one who's, it's in that moment when they're all in her office. She says,
the monologue.
Yeah, I was the one who sent them. And then, like, she talks about it just for a second and then continues on. And so when they're in that moment in the movie, like, she slaps Harry in the face and she puts she has a picture of Cornelius Fudge on her desk. She puts the photo down and then she's like, I'm basically going to do the Cruciatus curse on you. And that's when Hermione pipes up. So that part does happen, but they just like skip over that 2-minute moment of her saying, I sent the Dementors because you were a naughty boy messing with my heartthrob Cornelius Fudge and you had to be dealt with. So anyway, that's all I got from my restricted section. That's all the stuff I had. Oh wait, I had something on my hand. I wrote down.
I must not tell lies.
Hey, here's the thing. I wrote down ask in restricted section because you said something at the very beginning that I wanted to ask you. Like, you highlighted something and I wanted to ask you about it. This was what I wanted to ask you. When you were reading the books, you know, you mentioned that sometimes you had things spoiled. I don't know if you meant for Harry Potter itself, but did you have any major Harry Potter spoilers that you would be comfortable sharing?
So yes, one was Umbridge, actually, since we're on the topic of her. I knew and I don't think it's really hard to figure out as a reader that she's a villain. I think it's very clearly defined, but I was anticipating her. Like, I knew she was going to be one of the, you know, villains, but
yeah,
the biggest
she's
one,
memed a lot. Like, she's on, like, there's a lot of stuff about her on social media and, like, at least in the Potter sphere. So
the biggest spoiler that I had, and this crushed me because it was presented as a meme, but it sucked. But
Hate
when I
that.
first met Sirius Black, somebody put a meme in there that said, "Are you like?" It was like dead serious, and it got a lot of likes, and it clicked in my head like what that meant, and that sucked because there wasn't a ton of death on the main characters. And in the beginnings of the books and stuff, and I didn't know. I know this is a children. Like I didn't know if anybody even did die in this book when I first kind of started. So when I saw the dead serious portion, that really sucked because I did read his scenes a little bit differently, and it was hard to watch Harry get so close to this person that is really the first person in his life that he sees as like family, I would say. I mean, obviously Ron and them are like family, but they're friend family. Like Sirius was like somebody that he
It's his
really
godfather.
looked up to. It was his godfather. Yeah, exactly. And has connections with his dad and can tell him stories that the Weasleys can't tell him, and all those things. So for me as a reader, that was my favorite connection in the entire series, was between Sirius and Harry, and his character development was my absolute favorite. I think
and to know that it would be taken away the whole time.
Yeah, to know there wasn't a happy ending there sucked, and that was spoiled. And I tried to wipe it from my memory, but it just didn't happen, and I knew it was coming.
Did you kind of had that feel of I know he dies, I just don't know when? So when is it going to happen?
I didn't go and look it up. I mean, when it happened, and it still obviously sucked, but that was probably the biggest spoiler that I had. And prior
You're probably
to
on
going,
edge every chapter afterwards.
I was. Anytime Sirius was brought in, or if there was any sort of battle, I was like, he's going to die, he's going to die, he's going to die. So that was spoiled. And then the other thing that was spoiled was another death, Dobby's death, which I didn't get either of those emotional, I mean, they were still emotional, but knowing also that Dobby died, what do you mean Dobby died? Are you kidding me? And
you're probably just thinking what kind of reason would he have to die? Why is this elf gonna go?
He is just a catalyst for the entire series, and you're telling me you took him out? Between Dobby and Sirius, I mean, those are two of the probably most important creatures in his life. Well, I mean, his relationship with Dobby was a little bit different, obviously, but yeah, so that was also spoiled, but that was actually through my algorithm that spoiled that. It wasn't a commenter. So my algorithm unfortunately spit out without any warning the scene in the movie of Dobby dying. So I was like,
you said commentor, but it almost sounded like you said commoner.
It
was like, it wasn't a commoner that spoiled it.
It was a commenter that spoiled it. Yeah, exactly. But outside of that, I mean, no, you didn't get the Dumbledore impressed.
spoiler? You didn't know that Dumbledore died?
I had no idea that was coming. That was something I didn't. And what's so funny is me and my friends actually went to Universal as I was reading Half-Blood Prince, because that's the one he dies in the end of that book, right? And we're in line for the Gringotts ride. And down there, they have all the newspapers before you get onto the elevator thing, and they have a bunch of stuff. And one of my friends, they were also Harry Potter nerds, and they were kind of keeping an eye out for me. We even Googled it before we went, are there any major spoilers within the Universal rides? And everything said no. So we're like, okay, we're good. One of the headlines in that queue is Dumbledore found dead, and
that's where I thought you were going with this. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a massive headline in the queue. And so anybody that's watching, if you're going to Universal with a friend that's reading Harry Potter, watch out for that section. But my friend was walking in, she was like, close your eyes, turn your head. So it was so hard for me in line not to turn my head and see that. But if I would have read that headline, I probably would have lost it, because that was really the last big one. I didn't know about Snape. That was incredible. Getting to experience that. Obviously it sucked, but getting to experience that without knowing was great. And yeah, that was about it. Two massive spoilers, obviously. And then, here and there were little minor things. Did you catch this? And I was like, I haven't got to that part yet. But it was something the way the, I don't know, the secret passageway in the castle, or something with, the, I don't know. The only other spoiler.
Go ahead.
And sorry, this is another Universal thing, but there is one of the sections in Diagon Alley where they have the cabinet, that's transports you to. In the last book, they're with Dumbledore's brother, and I think that's how they get back is the cabinet, right? Yeah, I could be completely wrong here.
Listeners, I believe that what Chase is referring to here is the Vanishing Cabinet, which plays a big role in Book 6.
Anyways, I saw people taking pictures with it, and I was like, what is significant about that? Like, I had no idea because I hadn't gotten to the last book yet where that is brought up. But I saw two groups like taking pictures with this cabinet, and I looked to my friend. She was like, "Hey, just ignore it." I was like, okay,
such a random cabinet.
It's such a random cabinet, but it didn't spoil me because I didn't remember it until I got to that part of the book. So it wasn't like anything crazy, but that was the only other thing that technically
that is funny. Yeah, because like I love Universal. I've said it several times on this pod. Like I proposed to my wife in Harry Potter world. And so we've been there a lot. Probably won't get to go back for a minute because we have a baby now.
With the kid, yeah.
Eventually.
But you get child pass. Bring a friend.
That's
you get to
right.
ride the rides twice.
It's going to be great. But that I've never considered, because one person would think, you know, if you're in there, you need to be like, why are you in there if you haven't read the series yet? But it is also a good like way to get somebody into the series is to see how incredible this magical world is.
And between that and the video game, it really was a big reason why I picked the books up to begin with, because I've never seen the movies. So like the movies weren't what, you know, pushed me to read the books. I think the world itself and just knowing how big of an IP Harry Potter is, I was like, it has to be the best series in the world because why would it be this big if it's not? It was great. No regrets.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you walk into like Barnes and Noble, it's the biggest section, you know, of the whole store.
Yeah,
It gets its own so 2 aisles.
I know. I want to dive deeper into like some of the other books that they have, like, you know, what is the one of magical creatures or something like that. And then I know there's
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Yeah. Fantastic Beasts. So I think this fall or winter, I'll pick up some of those other, you know, series, and I might give obviously the movies a go, but I'm excited. I'm about to play the game again for the 3rd time. So.
Oh, sick. Are you doing different houses each time?
Yeah, every time. So I did Ravenclaw last, since I technically am a Ravenclaw. I was like, it only makes sense. I did Gryffindor the first time because that's what I wanted. And then I'm ready to play Slytherin. And I know if you play Hufflepuff, there's an extra, you get to go to Azkaban. And I'm saving that for my last go through because why not? But yeah.
So here's the thing. You know what? No, never mind. I'm not going to spoil. Because but did you do the what console are you playing it on?
PS5. Well, sorry, I played it on Switch the first 2 times. I'm about to start I just bought a PS5. I'm like, okay, maybe I do like video games. And I quite literally bought it to play Harry Potter without having to load every door that I walk through and get the graphics and stuff. So
here's the thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on the Switch or not. I think it became available across the board, but there is a haunted house quest.
I saw it on someone's TikTok live, and that is what I want to do this go around. Like that's, I want to do that under the Slytherin, and then I want to do Azkaban and Hogsmeade. That's right. It's like under, I don't think it's on Switch. I think it's a extra level on PS5 because
it was a PS5 exclusive, but then it became available on, because I have an Xbox.
Okay.
And I was able to play it, but I couldn't do it until I think it was like a year after release. People were able to do it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Because I went to this spot on the Switch when I saw the guy on TikTok doing it, and there was no way to enter whatever cellar that you go into to get down there. So I will be doing that on the next one.
Very cool. Well, I believe we've taken enough of your time. We've taken enough of the listeners' time. This was amazing. Chase, thank you so much for coming on. It was wonderful to get to meet you, to talk Potter with you. So yeah, listeners, like I said, links to Chase's socials will be down in the description of this episode. Make sure you check them out and come back for next week where we'll talk about chapters 9 and 10. Probably. I'm still booking the guest. Like I had another person drop out. So I'm like, I got to book 9 and 10. But anyway, come back for that. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. See you guys.
And click. Thank you for listening to Retold. Artwork for this podcast was created by Rachel Ortlip. Music was created by Taylor Jarvis. And the Retold podcast is produced by me. That's right. I made this.